Okay, so good afternoon, Branford, or good evening, Branford. It's 7:05 on election night. That is November 2nd, 2021. We're just doing a test, so we want to see that we're coming through clearly. We are at Lenny's, which is Republican headquarters tonight, and we'll be live again at 8 o'clock. We're just doing a test right now to see how volume is, how this is working on a remote location. Looks like our Wi-Fi is pretty good. If you're there, you can hear us, let me know. And we can talk a little bit about the election. Some of the things we look for in an election like this is what does turnout look like? Turnout looks fairly crisp. We're looking at numbers, just for argument's sake. The best election, Brian, thank you very much. We don't have results yet. The polls don't close for another hour. We're just testing this a little bit, but we'll talk about the election just a little bit. What I'm looking for as we go forward, what I'm looking for is in regards to results and turnout that we're seeing so far. The best thing we do when in real estate, we talk about looking at comps, right? What is the house worth versus other houses on the street? What's sold recently? We look at recent elections. Unfortunately, we can't look at the election 2 years ago because 2 years ago in Branford, Jamie Cosgrove didn't have an opponent. So he didn't have a significant energy at the top of the ticket in that race. We can look at 4 years ago. We can look at 2013, which was Cosgrove's first time. Just a reminder, we are at Republican headquarters. There may be some noise behind me. I'm doing the best I can. But throughout the evening, I'll try to walk through this. We're not far from the door, so we'll be loud at times. I'll try to get you as much information as we can. But realistically, what I'm looking at are past results, past election results. And when we compare, I'm looking at the 2015 election was against Rabinowitz. That was not a significant election, but that had about 46, 47, 48, about 72, about 7,000 votes came in that one. We are over that. We are about 7,300 now, which means I expect our overall turnout to be in the 8,000 vote range, maybe a little bit under that, 7,800. Not a significantly huge number. From a strategy standpoint, the Democrats' strategy was to basically try to get as many absentee ballots as possible. There was an increase in absentees. Looks like about between 1,000 and 1,200 came in. Remember that some of those are going to be Republican votes, but that's probably not the number they were looking for. I think they were looking for 2,000 or more to come in absentee. Basically, they were looking for people who don't normally vote in local elections to vote in local elections. That didn't happen. About 1,500 votes separated Jamie Cosgrove and Linda Mallow the last time he had an opponent 4 years ago. You also have to remember that was a huge Democratic year. That was the anti-Trump. Trump had just won in 2008. In 2000 and whatever year it was. Trump had just won. The next year, Democrats came out in force against every Republican. Jamie still won by 1,500 votes, which tells us the enormous support he had that year. So it's a tough year for Democrats. That said, these are always a surprise. Usually when there's a change election, when there's an attempt to get rid of an incumbent in office, you see voting early. You see people show up at 6 o'clock in the morning, huge numbers by 9 o'clock. That did not happen. So that tells us there's not a significant level of disapproval of the job Jamie Cosgrove has done. And I don't see a huge number of absentees that are incredibly worrisome from Cosgrove's standpoint. That said, we have a comparison of two very, very drastic campaigns where we have Cosgrove, who refuses to send out negative mailers, refuses to attack opponents, won't let his team attack opponents. At times, his team wants him to, and he refuses, doesn't allow it, versus what I will call the most aggressive attacking campaign I've ever seen from the Democrats, being run by somebody from New Haven who was running their campaign new to town. Hey, Bob, how are you? So we have an amazing race in front of us. It's just an interesting, everything tells me Cosgrove is safe. The real question is going to be further down the ticket, what happens with tax collector, with all the issues going on in that office. Does Branford re-elect Roberta Gill Brooks? So they look for a change there. You had an interesting race in the town clerk's office where you had the incumbent versus someone she hired and trained running against her on the Democratic ticket. The RTM, does that also stay for Cosgrove? Part of what the Democrats have tried to do in the past is not necessarily beat Cosgrove, but take over control of the Board of Selectmen or take over the RTM. which would in many ways handcuff Jamie Cosgrove when he comes to run the town. So far as that has not been successful in past elections. We'll be looking for that tonight as well. And then we look at very differently we take politics out of it, but the Board of Education, the changes there, and who can get on. And we'll be looking at that as well. We'll get those usually later on. As we get further down the race, further down the ticket, if these start to tighten up, we're going to take longer to get the results. So typically what happens is we get our smaller districts first. That's Short Beach and Stony Creek. Early on, if Cosgrove has won or is extremely close in either one of those, that's basically a sign Cosgrove's going to win easily. Those are the two easy Democratic wins, typically, Short Beach and Stony Creek. Two smallest districts, but they usually win those easily. The last few years, Cosgrove's been right in those. This year, high turnout in those districts is what the Democrats are certainly hoping for. And so that could be an increase in absentee ballots. It could be an increase at the polls. It's looking like we have a small increase from 2 years ago, but nothing earth-shattering. The other question is about absentee ballots. So it looks like we're going to end up with probably in the 1,100 to 1,200 absentee ballot range, right? So we were up to about 1,000 yesterday. Same day, absentee ballots likely came in today. We ask a couple questions when it comes to absentee ballots. One, are they people who normally didn't vote before? These are new votes. Or are they people who did vote in past elections? We've already accounted for those votes in past elections, but we've just switched to absentee because of COVID, because of the push by the Democrats or what have you. So it's difficult to determine how we count those votes and how do we say, are they part of the huge number Democrats need to make up to take out Jamie Cosgrove or to take out lower portions of the ticket? So a lot of interesting questions. We'll start answering these about 8 o'clock tonight. We'll be back live at 8. Results should start coming in usually by 8:10, 8:15. We have our first results. We'll walk you through those as we go. To those that are asking, people have been asked all day, are you going to have the results live? Yes, we'll be live at 8. Please tell your friends and neighbors. Let them know. If there are questions or comments or things you'd like to know or understand about the process, please send those questions in. Comment below this. I'll do my best to answer those. For now, there's no point in staying on until 8 o'clock, so I'm going to sign off. But I'll see you back at 8 o'clock, and I hope you have a great election night for the next 45 minutes. We'll see you